the, welcome everyone to the Board of Council on Aging Board on February the 5th, at 2 o'clock. Okay. Did everybody read the minutes from this past meeting, from last month? Mike's so nice to print it out for us so we can get it very loudly.
Oh, bring it closer.
I know some of you were checking it on the low side.
Yeah, keep going.
All right, any questions on the minutes?
Entertain a motion?
Nothing. Do I have a motion to accept?
Nope, just entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of January 8th, 2024 as presented. I second.
Okay, very good. So accepted. Anybody, raise a hand if anybody has any objections.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Yeah, any discussion?
I'll get him.
I'll never get this right. It's been over a year. Any discussion on the motion? See none? All in favor? Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? Okay. Next thing on board is the treasury report.
Okay, you all have a copy of it in your packet. Either you printed it out or Mike gave it to you. It's an easy one this time. I warned Mike, don't be putting the yellow stuff on that. It's at the very top. So anyway, budget report as of January 31, 2024. The main column you need to look at on the first page under general fund is the January 2024 column, which is the third one over, and it shows you what has been spent out this month. The top section is the normal payrolls, and then the bottom, legal manager, repairs, energy, just normal things. So this month, a total of $14,298.54 was spent out of the general fund and leaves us with a balance of $101,706.03.
Just, we added another column just for purposes of letting you folks know. If you look at that last column, it's percentage of amount spent on budget
Yes,
two.
and to show you where we are, as most of you know by now, because Mike and I keep saying it, our fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30. So we are about at that halfway point, and we are in pretty good shape as far as the general fund goes, 52% down.
So yeah, we're a little bit past 6 months, and we spent 52%. There are some line items that show very high percentages of expenditures. Those are generally one and done. Clothing allowance gets spent once during the year. It doesn't get amortized over the 12 months. Our professional development is such a small budgetary amount that the expenditures makes it larger. Although we will see some changes in professional development, we just have to process the fund transfer. So you'll see some yellow lines next month, Terry, just so you know. And all of the encumbered repairs. Terry and I had a conversation. I just want to let you know, encumbered money is money from the last fiscal year. So it's not generally included in the budget for this fiscal year. However, at the end of the year, we recognized there were some expenses that we hadn't paid as of June 30th that were due at the end of the year that we were able to capture, roll over, and then pay at the beginning of FY24. That's what the encumbered is. It's not like additional repairs encumbered or encountered this year. It's expenses from last year that we're capturing in this year's budget.
Thank you. Is there any questions at all on the general fund? Just on the general fund. We're happy to answer any questions. No? No? No. Okay, we'll move on to the gift fund. We were very fortunate in January. We received a gift for $875. It is from someone who wishes to remain anonymous, but they donated it to the gift fund. So we have a very healthy gift fund, $73,302.92. We are just waiting to get moved, and I'm sure we will we're already going to use some of it for painting, and I'm sure we will have some other permanent type things that we want in our new areas. Okay, any questions on the gift fund? Okay, turn to page 2, which is your revolving fund. Again, just look at the January 2024 column. Everything is in pretty good order. A little over halfway down, catering, $2,890. That was for meals and things at Christmas time, in one bill. But, a lot of meals and things were served. So the $2,890 represents part of that. And the other, I noticed the name on there that I asked about, Denise Hill, and she is our painting instructor. So she gets a small stipend or monetary reimbursement, and it's paid out of the revolving fund. So welcome, Denise. We're always happy to have new people on board. I didn't know, I just thought you all might like to know.
Just a side note, so Denise Hill, in the first month she was here, October, we took the supplies cost and put it in revolving fund, but the remaining costs we put in the state grant. So you'll see Denise Hill again under the state grant. That's generally for our time. Instructors, we pay a lot of instructors out of the state grant, so our fund is
Yeah, that's the question, Paul.
Underneath Denise wrote down shelter. Where is that?
It's a shelter. So the senior center is really the only social service agency in the city of Gardner. There are no other designated agencies. When you think about that, the Board of Health isn't really equipped or designated to do that kind of stuff. So when there is an emergent response necessary, typically, regardless of age, the referral is brought here. So we deal with a lot of folks that become homeless because of fire or natural catastrophe like flooding, environmental issues in the house, no heating, that kind of stuff, evictions, or just general homelessness. And when it becomes a real issue, emergent issue, they come here. So that's funds that were expensed for emergency services, specifically shelters for a senior that was burned down his house.
So like during snowstorms, things like that,
Nope, so that wouldn't, so that's a great question. We are a cooling center and heating center here at the Charles Peter King Building. Those costs are absorbed in our general budget. These are costs associated with expenses outside of our four walls. So they might be for, a motel for somebody for emergency vouchers. It might be, I don't know, that's probably the best example. Transportation services for someone who is experiencing, dislocation or relocation. And so it's typically, so that $652 represents about 14 days of accommodation. One of the other really cool things is since we started doing this, we've been able to leverage funds from other organizations. And so, instead of us contracting for 3 days and spending a much higher rate and another agency contracting like the CDC for 3 days, we're able to pool our resources, go for 6 days and get a lower rate for both organizations.
Thank you.
Any other question on the revolving fund? Any others? We're happy to try and answer. Any others? No? The balance in the revolving fund is $34,299.47. Well, the revolving fund is in very good shape. On down to the FY23 state grant, and that's
Terry, you're doing a great job. I just want to make one other note for people to notice. Our income in the revolving fund was $17,591. Our expenses $17,157. So we're actually a little bit ahead of the game in terms of expenses versus income. Our goal is to spend more than we take in this year, so we try to find new ways to bring resources to the seniors at a much lower cost than we might generally provide, just so that folks know if you start seeing those expense items going up, it's because we're trying to, really not break even. We should be spending a little bit more of this money. I'm sorry, Terry.
If you see a car around there or a vacation in the Bahamas,
Board retreat.
be sure to question that, but at the moment, everything is good. And then on page 3 is our FY 23 state grant. And again, look at the January 2024 column. The only, down, halfway down, there's an item, entertainment, $500. That was for the Terrifics at the Christmas party. So $500, that's what that was for. Otherwise, and there you'll see Denise Hill's name again, and the other instructors. And outside of that, everything is not much happened in the grant fund this month.
The vast majority of our expenses, typically in any given month, are instructors. There are a couple other big line items, the program tables. A lot of that we were able to offset with income we received from the health fair, but we bought some more folding tables just so that we have them in the facility in anticipation of going to Waterford Retreat. And the other big expense, the Xavis Solutions, just so they all know what that is. That is our subscription for our software that runs the check-in system and registration system on Senior Center. So that's the subscription, plus we buy a module that allows us to do robocalls, robotexts, and robo-emails. We literally sent out 6,000 phone calls in 12 seconds. It was pretty cool.
Okay.
Question for Mr. Crowley.
Oh, question.
Yes, you have a,
Pull that a little closer.
hello?
Yep, that works.
Oh, okay. On the state grant 23, you show a balance of 19,000 and a burn rate this year of 19,000, which means that you're going to basically be out of money in this at the end of the fiscal year.
No,
You're
doesn't.
going to be faster.
No, absolutely. So here's the good news. If you go up to the top, this is a carryover from FY23. We're in FY24. So we have $19,000 left in FY23, but I have $77,000 left in FY24 that we have service gap.
Right.
So we roughly have, $95,000 in
But the
grant.
specific grant is going to make it so you don't have to spend any of this year's grant.
Yeah, well, our hope is no, but yes, that's kind of the way it looks. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we've been ultra conservative, ultra frugal in that regard. I think we need to start being a little bit more, and the reason for that is this board specifically kind of embraced that philosophy in anticipation of unanticipated expenses for our new location. And I think that that's still a very prudent policy and position to take, is we will have some expenses we didn't think, and I'm not talking capital expenses, I'm talking about programmatic expenses and those kinds of things to support the center. One great example, one shining example is a new kiosk. If everything goes the way that we planned it will, there'll actually be 4 entrances now, 4 ways to come into the center compared to 2, which means we'll have to create 2 more check-in stations. Well, each of those check-in stations, first time, is probably a $1,500 or $2,000 subscription enrollment. The hardware our IT department will buy, so that's easy to do. I say that not really knowing. I know it's the price tag they gave us was like $3,000, but that included all the hardware. I don't need the hardware. I can buy my own systems here, and we have the support for that. So another great shining example of where we're going to need to spend money programmatically includes, sound systems throughout the center so that we can communicate in a quick way to multi-rooms. And the third obvious one, what was it that I was thinking of? IT infrastructure. For those of you who don't remember, we just got a grant, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but just making sure that we have WAPs and all of the devices necessary to support the wireless access point. So, those are some of the other kind of unique one-time expenses we can use that money for, that we won't have to have recurring costs associated with it. Thank you.
Any other question on the FY '23 state grant? No, then we'll move on to page 4, which is the FY '24 grant, and you can see there were no expenses at all out of that. That's still, Mike is doing a good job trying not to use it, just for saving up with the car. And then the last page is just a synopsis of the two state grants. You can see at the top are the beginning budgets and the balances, and then the January 24, that's a listing of expenses which came from your page 4. So, are there any questions at all about any item, anything? Just go ahead and ask us. If not, I will conclude my report.
Okay. Can I entertain a motion?
I entertain a motion to accept the, budget report for 2020.
Second, okay. Any discussions on it? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
Right. Do you build a traditional balance sheet type of accounting structure?
No, because technically, we don't have any assets, for example, on the balance sheet, so we don't have assets as it relates to infrastructure, property, facilities, holdings. Everything we own and use really belongs to the city per se. So no, we don't do like a statement of activity, balance sheet, statement of financial position, or P&L. But we do, because the budget comes in, we try to do the active, if you will, for those of us that do accounting. That's our P&L, which shows revenue, which shows expenses, but there's no balance sheet. We don't have payables, there's no such thing. We don't, so, a great example of that for folks that aren't, well, should be paying attention, you'll see next month. We've had outstanding bills since last March for Otis Elevator. They are the new state contracted elevator maintenance company. We haven't been able to pay those bills because the bills came as a consolidated invoice for 5 locations in the city. State law requires us to have a very detailed invoice in order to pay, especially when it relates to our building. If the mayor's office absorbed all of those, for example, we wouldn't need that. But because that line item is paid by the Council on Aging, we need an invoice. Certainly, the police department needs an invoice, City Hall needs an invoice, and the schools need an invoice. And when they first entered the contract in March, they entered it as one location. So we haven't been paying. We haven't been showing those payables that accrue liability. There's no place to show it. There's no way to really capture that.
Is there an estimate as to what the total is?
So it's about $280 a month. So it was about $3,000, and our portion of those bills, we paid. We are up to date paid as of it was beginning of February. I paid all the invoices because they weren't able to take the big invoice and then put some line items that said 294 Pleasant Street, $285, 200 Main Street, $310. And so that was good enough for me in terms of detail, so I was able to pay it. Some of the other departments are struggling to get that through, and I understand why. I mean, technically, legally, it should be broken out, but it was good enough. And I don't like outstanding bills. I like to pay my bills.
It's a very simple fix. The manager of the department can write a pro forma invoice detailing your section of the overall invoice.
You would think it's that easy, but it's not. It's a state contract, so from a private business, wicked easy. I could take a general invoice and bill a private company however I want. State invoicing and payment laws, our auditing requirements are super stringent. So It's exactly what you just said, Paul. That's exactly what I did, is I said, look, just give me the general invoice, but break out the locations. And they did, and I said, that's all I need. I just have to be able to identify what my expense is so I can pay it. So I don't know that everyone has caught up, but I know the senior center, it'll be reflected in the February report. We are 100% caught up on all of our bills. Which, I mean, the city generally is too. They're not like withholding the payment, they just withhold the payment to the proper invoice.
But it's not like you got a $50,000 bill hanging over.
No. I wish I had a $50,000 bill hanging over me. I'd reach up and grab it and
It
run.
would be on it.
Oprah.
Thank you.
Okay, so shall we go to old business? Anything in old business?
No update on age-friendly designation, except our first coffee and conversation is scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m. at Banal House. If you're available and interested, come join us. I've also just sent that email to Christie, asking if we can get into Hayward Wakefield Commons. Oh, no, I lied. I sent it to Prashant, but I'm sending you one, Christie, so watch for it, to get into Gardner Housing and Hayward Commons. And we'll bring all the goodies, the coffee, donuts, muffins, all that stuff, just to have a fireside chat. Yep, easy peasy. Paul?
Do we have any organizations around that do support groups for caregivers,
We do.
for dementia, for...
We have two. Actually, the Gardner Senior Center on the second Tuesday of every month does a caregiver support group from 3 to 4 o'clock. Gratuitous plug for the Gardner Senior Center and our partner CSO that manage and facilitate that for us. The attendance and participation is very low.
Maybe we need to make it more widely known.
Yeah. The second one, for dementia in particular, Hayward Hospital has a dementia caregiver support group. So again, not very widely attended. It's been around for a lot longer than ours has. All the support groups, they have an interesting dynamic. For those of you who don't know, we do 5 support groups here at the Gardner Senior Center, affiliated with or help support these support groups. We do the Menders support group, which is just for guys. There's a lot of great research and reasons why we do the men's support group. We do here at the Senior Center as part of the Reducing Suicide Prevention Task Force. We do the caregiver support group. We have the top support group, wonderfully attended, great group of people, great people. We do the LGBTQI support group. Now, when I say we do it, we provide a ton of referrals, a lot of PR and marketing. It's an independent group. We don't generally tell people what the meetings are because, quite honestly, there's some mean and bad people in this community, so we try to keep the folks that attend that meeting anonymous. And then the last one is our veteran support group. So those are the 5 we run out of here. But there are support groups all over, especially at like Hayward, where they have the dementia care support group. They have a cancer survivor support group. They have a new mom, a new breastfeeding mom support group. They just have like a lot of wonderful resources. So we try to, if any of our folks come in with a particular issue, we try to give them a referral to the organizations. There's a great grief support group that's hosted by Care Central VNA. There are a ton of mental health support groups that are offered through NAMI. So just some great resources in our community.
Well, I have some ideas about expanding awareness. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we're always looking for new ideas for marketing, and that'll be part of my director's report.
For example, having a page on the web that says support groups available in the area.
Yeah, let's chat for sure. Waterfront Street update, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you may.
All right, so as with any big project, we've talked about this a million times. The wonderful thing about this platform is we are all based in reality. We know that this is going to take some time. Even though we are optimistic about when we might move in, there are still a million things that have to be done as a municipal agency. Unlike the private sector, we can't just kind of turnkey into a location. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts requires this rigorous study. It's actually called the Building Evaluation and Inspection Report. They go through in like 6 or 8 sections specifically. They look at mechanical structures, HVAC, compressors. They look at electrical structures, capacity, load demand, requirements go on, generator, for example. They look at lighting, that kind of stuff, appropriate, outlets and service to each room and what that looks like. They look at hazardous materials like asbestos and lead paint and mold and, all of that stuff. We have a code review which looks at how the building has to be adapted and changed to ensure that it meets current code, including ADA requirements, handicap accessibility. So that would include our bathrooms and door hardware and accessibility. We do not have steps at Watford Street, which is a great thing.
Oh, I just shut off.
Unless you go in the boiler room. However, there are 2.5-inch reveals. Very easy fix. We just put some asphalt ramps in. There's not a requirement. That's God telling me that I've talked too long, just so that you all know what that meant. I'm going to take yours, Cap, if I can. So they started that process. They're knee deep in it now. We've been going down and escorting the engineers and the architects through. Yeah, there's an architectural plan as well. That's really about flow and structure and identification of spaces and security and that kind of stuff, fire alarms, position, painting, all of that kind of good stuff. So we've been going down and just escorting them through, giving them the highlights of the building. It is a building-wide assessment. It's not just the senior center, but the vast majority of the implication is going to be on the senior center city-supported side, which would include the Gardner CHC, I imagine. So a lot of work is being done. We were hopeful that that study would be turned around in less than a month. The reality is going to be 2 months, so that's going to delay us a little bit. After the study is done, and I don't think they're going to come back with anything we don't know. We know that there's hazardous materials there. We know there's hazardous conditions there. There's nothing there that will prevent us from ever moving in, but we'll need to do some work on that stuff, piece of cake. We know there's some work to do on the electrical. We know there's some work to do on the HVAC. We've talked about heat splits and that. If you put heat splits in, you got to make sure you have adequate service for that. There's, so far in all of the discussions I had, there's been nothing that they've suggested that is out of the ordinary or unexpected. People have floated the idea of water. And we know there's moisture in that building. It's in a very wet area. So water remediation, we know, we've been talking about it for a year. So I just want to make sure the board knows and understands. So far, no big surprises. Everything is would it be nice if they said, everything's ready to go, just walk in? Yeah, but we know that's not the case. As we've talked about some of the expenses we want to incur. As that continues on and we get updates, I will let you know whether that it means having to have a special meeting or whatever, but I just want to make sure that you're kept in the loop on that. What else at Waterford? I think that's the biggest thing, right? So they did a major clean the other day. They have 2 big 30 yard dumpsters out there that they're putting the old, junky desks that are broken and have no adaptive use. We've had this surplus property posted for 3 months, which is way beyond the requirements of the state, saying the surplus property, allowing city agencies, state agencies, municipal town officials to come in and gather those resources. We then opened it up to other agencies and organizations to come in and get those materials, and now pretty much it's been decided that what's left is surplus, no value. So now we're at the point we can throw it away, which is great. We had a wonderful group of people in there recently doing just that. The auditorium is probably now 75% cleared. That was the staging area for a lot of stuff. There's another room on the other side. It'll be a quick removal process, probably half a day, and all of the items at Waterford Street will be moved. But similarly, I just want to take just on for our facility. About 3 years ago, we got a donation of some executive desks. The caveat was they couldn't come out then because they were surrounded by pallets of stuff, of equipment and supplies. There was no way in God's creator. In order to get to the rooms, the desks weren't had to crawl over pallets, so they couldn't get them out. And by crawl, I'm talking 8 feet high pallets, not little pallets of sand. They emptied the space and they delivered the desk the other day. Just this really nice furniture for our staff. And we're kind of just doing some small minor stuff that won't get us in trouble of repairs and updates in anticipation of opening. We hope to get the painting done, but we're going to wait to get the painting done until the engineer's report comes in case there's a surprise like it's lead paint. We don't care about lead paint as seniors. We don't chew on chalkboards. But we might have to encapsulate some different kind of process. We just figured we tap the brakes a little bit there. Anything else? Oh, just so you know, like we've gone through the process now of clearing Waterford Street. So the major storms we've had this year, Berman and I go down after we're done here, we clean that out. I honestly think it will have about the same impact of cleaning up here. That it's not, even though the footprint is so much larger, we have just a great contractor doing the plow, clearing off is pretty close to the edge of the building as it can. So the shoveling and clearing that we're doing is really not, much more than we do here, which is a lot if anybody has seen it. We can't get the plows next to the ramp and really close to the front door without breaking something. That's why I don't plow. Any questions about Waterford Street? So Tracy's on it, but Julie's, anything that I missed? Anything? Yeah. All right. It's cool. I mean, it's hard not to be excited every time I walk in that building.
Is there a projected date of opening?
Yes.
You have it?
I don't have it. Somebody I'm sure has it, but I honestly, I've been like super optimistic, telling people that, my hope was April. We didn't want to go through a winter campaign of moving stuff in snow and ice and slippery conditions. We figured most of the stuff would be ready in April because of the delays in, and I understand it's much more comprehensive than what I thought. The engineer's report, they get 7 weeks to complete it. They're a couple weeks into it. They probably won't be done till the end of March, maybe beginning of April. Then we have to kind of get that report and sift through it. They'll make recommendations. We'll accept some of those recommendations. Bid specs will be created based on those recommendations. We'll have to go out to bid. We'll have to receive sealed bids, open that bid, award the contract, have the work done. I think April is probably optimistic, too optimistic, maybe Pollyanna. So maybe more realistically might be Labor Day. But I want to just, interesting, I don't want to belabor this, but I want people to be kind of grounded in reality. We had a speaker, Gail Steele from the Theater at the Mountain. Gail was here, she's been there for 30 years at the Theater at the Mountain, was here talking, and she talked about the expansion and the renovations of the theater. When they first came through, they said 90 days. And then they said 6 months. And a little over 2 years later, she moved into the space, still not completed, but 90% done. And so that was a wide awakening for me because it brought me back to my days of community development planning where, big projects take time. I'm also going to get up on this bully pulpit if you'll let me do it. One of the things that fascinates me is every single engineer, like 20 engineers and architects that I've met with this whole week, and I haven't met one. I open the door, they walk through. What I often, as I do, was like a little puppy dog and follow them and ask questions. And every one of them that I had occasion to talk about this said, this building is awesome. I mean, Waterford Street, if we do the small amount of repairs that have to be done now, we invest the money now, this building will last another 50 years without another major improvement. Now, just put things in retrospect, that roof is 60 years old. It has 2 very, very small leaks. Very small leaks. Has it been repaired and patched over 60 years? I'm sure of that. But think of your own house, 60 years. What's the likelihood you can go 60 years without a leak in your roof? Amazing. The storm drain is in great shape. The infrastructure is in just great shape. They just replaced the boilers that are 5, 7 years old. There's no major repairs that we would have to do except the major repairs we have to do. The roof, we really should be talking about the roof. What does that mean for the Council on Aging? we're gonna have to talk to people about spending some money in this building, right? And advocate for, if we really believe it's a good idea, advocate for that. And when people say, well, what the hell are we spending that money for? Talk to them about it. I think that's a legitimate purpose for this board, is to say, yeah, let's put forth whatever we need to for a loan order or appropriation order. If the money's available and the city council and the mayor agree, then let's be the spokesperson for this job. A little retrospect, think of all the backlash people gave to the Gardner pool. The Gardner pool is in much worse condition. Irreparable, terrible. The roof structure was falling down. But people still wanted to save that building, and they thought it was a good adaptive reuse. It didn't make sense to save that building, but it made sense to save Gardner Street. This thing's got enormous potential to hold us up for a period that none of us will ever live to see the end of, which is great. So that's my 2 cents. I'm as excited, and I want to make sure that you all know, if anybody wants to get in, if you haven't seen it, want to go for a tour, I'm happy to give a guided tour.
Did I ask a question about the roof? You were mentioning about the, on the building with the roof, and I know we're going to be hitting the heat splits, and I believe they're going to be putting the compressors up on the roof, correct?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so my question is, why don't they do the roof and then do the work and put the compressor, whatever, on top? Because otherwise, I've seen complexes where they have compressors on the roof or air conditioning systems for apartments, condos and stuff, and they're going to take all that stuff off the roof to do it. So why not just do that first? It's good for maybe another 60 years.
The question is, why not do the major infrastructure repairs that need to be done before we do some of the other stuff? So the heat splits, one of the things we've talked about as a way to avoid breaking up the ceiling. The ceiling is most likely asbestos. It's a hard, like almost metallic material. It's not friable. The only way it would be friable is if you get up there and start scraping it with sandpaper and, or, I don't know, I don't even think licking it would be a problem. You really have to do a lot, but cutting into it would create dust. That's the problem people have. And so we can't, if we're looking at doing heat splits or other kind of mechanical structures in the room, we got to find creative ways to do that. Well, all the ceilings are vaulted, and at the top of the vault on one side of the room, there's a series of windows. It would be really easy to remove one panel, put whatever duct work or mechanical work that needs to go in to support the heat splits in that block. It would have very minimal negative aesthetic effect. It would give us a lot of positive effect. But that means, as Ron alluded to, that means we would have to put the compressors on the roof. That's why we have structural engineers in there. The whole purpose is to look at the design. Mike can come up with this great idea and not really know anything about anything. The engineers are going to be the ones that suggest, well, the best way to do this is to put the compressors on the roof and duct it in that way. They may say, no, that's a terrible way to do it. Go underneath the floor and come up. I don't know what they're going to say, but we are having the structural people do that. We know the roof repair is going to be substantial. It would be, if we did the entire roof, it's 60,000 square feet of roofing, right? So, what does that look like in terms of cost? Well, I can tell you what some people have floated, but until we get a bid, none of that matters. But it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Is it $100 million? No. Could the entirety of all these projects cost us, a couple $1 million? Maybe, if we put some gold toilets in and stuff. Yeah, I'm just saying, if we really did everything now, but I think it's worth a couple $1 million to get this stuff done and have a building you wouldn't have to touch for 50 years. To me, that makes sense. But there are folks in our community that it doesn't make sense, and I understand their position as well. That's why we have elected officials who are, again, much more learned, much more knowledgeable, much more savvy about these matters than I am. I think it's a good investment, but what's the alternate? Is you don't put any money into it and you leave the building vacant. That's just dumb. But that might be what ends up happening from my perspective. That's because I'm super excited to get in there, and I think we're going to be doing roller skating races down the hallway. We're getting segways for the staff. No, I'm just kidding. Don't, folks that are watching this, I'm kidding.
People down the winter time. You have the whole field full of water, we'll have it for the winter time.
Ice skate.
Ice skating,
Ice
yes.
skate.
Sledding, snowman.
Any other questions on Waterford Street?
Oh, no,
Okay.
another question.
Is it an open discussion question?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll wait till.
All right. So, any other discussion? What Mike brought up as the director?
No, we're busy. I haven't done the director's report,
Oh, I
please.
thought you did the record.
Oh my God, I'm not even close. I got another 20 minutes, sir. Go to board vacancy.
Okay, we're going to go into the discuss the problem that we just had with the board vacancy. We were supposed to have it at the city hall.
Yeah, so just so that everyone knows, appointments have been made by the mayor to the city council. The appointments committee was scheduled, and because of a conflict that changed. Then a major, thing happened in the city. So in order to accommodate the city councilors' wish to be part of those services, the appointments committee was postponed again. There is no new date yet, but up this month for consideration are Kathy, Terry, Barbara, Gloria, and myself. The first round will be those four. Because there were probably, I don't know, there were a lot of appointments, I won't guess how many. There were a lot of appointments made by the committee to the council, by the mayor to the council, and referred to the committee. They're taking them in pieces. So the first, I think 12 were planned in this round that has been having to be rescheduled again, I think out of respect for, city servants. Those will be rescheduled. So for the four of you that are waiting with bated breath, know that that'll happen probably sooner rather than later. And now the director's report.
Yes. Have fun.
Sit back, ladies and gentlemen. No, I just want to tell you a couple things. First of all, FY25 budget is underway. We're working on that. Full disclosure, there's probably not going to be any significant changes to the budget in FY25 as there is in the general fund FY24 budget. I say that again, there's probably not going to be any major deviations from there. No increases proposed. In fact, the mayor has asked all departments to look at ways to trim their budget, non-salary related, by between 2 and 3%. So we're looking at ways we can cut our budget by a couple percent going into FY25. The reason for that is it's the mayor and the city council's hope that if we can accumulate enough reductions in the operating sides of people's budget, then we can start to pay folks a little bit better and use that money to increase salaries. There is a salary study that's underway. No, it's been done. They're just waiting for the actual written report, making recommendations for salary adjustments for folks in the city. That's the FY24 budget. The shelter, I just want to make sure you know that we're still very actively engaged with the immigrant population, but more importantly, for emergency services. So again, for folks that don't know or understand this, when there's a major incident, whether it's on an individual level, family level, or group level, the senior center is brought into the fold, primarily because we are the social service agency that can provide the support and resources and have the capacity to do that. I also have the luxury of having some folks here at the senior center, but as part of the senior center staff, but we also have the very tight relationship with the CAC. So if we're not able to solve a problem, we can use and tap the resources of the CAC. And if they're not able to solve the problem, the two of us collectively, the two agencies are able to get it done. Some examples of that, on Monday mornings we hold an ESL class for folks trying to learn, the language that are new to our country. Really happy to do that. It's not a senior-centric activity, but it certainly is something that we should be doing. It's our responsible duty as a, civic-minded organization focused on the betterment of all individuals. We did make a major change, just so you know. Some folks are angry with us. Our veteran support group has moved from a nice Friday 10 o'clock time to a Tuesday at noon time. That does a couple things for us. Thursdays here at the Charles McKee building were terrible. It was terrible. Not because the people were terrible, but there was so much going on between the CAC and the senior center. Parking was a problem. People's moods were a problem. And to exacerbate the fact that we were busier than a one-on paper hanger, we also had trash days. So 50% of our parking spaces on the street were now taken up by trash. It was creating friction among our neighbors, who were beautiful, very supportive of us. I can go on a million years about all the good things they do for us here at the Charles McKean Building. So we said, all right, let's see if we can alleviate that tension. We moved some of our Thursday programs to Friday because we had the capacity downstairs. The room downstairs wasn't being used, the upstairs was. And we moved our Friday programs to Tuesday afternoon, including veterans. So it gives us the ability to kind of sparse out a little bit the folks that come to the center in a little bit better way. But it also gives me the opportunity, and I love this, to offer lunch to our veterans. We couldn't do that at 10 o'clock on a Friday morning because most of them didn't want to eat lunch. But at 12 o'clock, we can do that. So we feed all the veterans that come for that meeting. We have the same program, the same speakers, the same resources, planning the same trips. Nothing other than the time exchange and the ability for us to offer a free lunch to our senior veterans. So we're hoping that folks, we had a good showing. This is the first one we had to do it kind of on an emergency and flipped it. It's now being promoted as such. I think it's going to be a good outcome. As a result, one of the programs we scheduled for Friday, if any of you have signed up for this, please note the date has changed. Our bread raffle is no longer being held at 10 o'clock on Thursday, it's being held at 10 o'clock on Friday. There's just so, 10, 10, 10:30. Be here at 10. It also allows us a little bit more flexibility with the food items we get, right? So we're able to turn food items over a lot faster. So far, it's been a real win. I'm hoping that it's been a win for the folks upstairs. I know how much chaos we were creating in your life, and I apologize for that. But I think we've changed it. The last thing I want to just tell you, well, two more things. July 20th is the tentative marked in pen shredding event. Last year we did over 3 tons of paper and really didn't do a heavy lift. This year our tax preparers are letting folks know that the shredding event is happening, so if you have personal papers and want them destroyed, that's the day to do it. The city's going to do a heavy lift on marketing for us, so we'll see more activity. But 3 tons is not a small amount. In fact, I think the truck, their capacity is 4 tons. Last year we did it was 2 tons, this year's 3. I think we're going to hit 4 for sure. But always looking for volunteers. That is an AARP sponsored activity as well. We'll have AARP members present, but if any board members would like to come, or you just want to get out for the day on July 20th because you have nothing better to do, come on down to the Gardner Senior Center.
Which is such
Are there any potential plans for taking care of electronic trash?
The answer is there's a city recycling day. So the city recycling day is September 20th, I believe. And that day is, that event is held at the landfill. So it's not only electronic devices, but they also take all of the other recyclable materials, including liquids, hazardous liquids, oils, refrigerant, that kind of stuff. So they take all that as well. I'll check on the electronic thing though. But just so that folks really want to know, we do use, this center uses, in fact, the recycling folks at the end of Pleasant Street, even for our devices. So they have a shredder that they shred. There's a cost to it, so they'll shred hard drives. Don't get your fingers caught in that, because they ain't coming out. But I'll look at it. So electronic recycling, you're talking specifically hard drives, phones, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, there actually used to be a business that you could collect it and sell it. You got the group in Springfield, Mass. that had hired ex-cons to come in and actually tear apart the computer and pick up the valuable parts. And,
Like the data on the hard
yeah, it
drive?
was goodwill.
Always good for
It was goodwill that ran the program. So it's an active ongoing every day that we're taking for all electronics. So I didn't know if there was potential for a little bit of.
And this is the last piece, is just an update on the technology grant. The Gardner Senior Center, in collaboration with the Templeton Senior Center, was awarded an $85,000 grant to buy things like Neat Boards, which is a 90-inch television that has Zoom built-in Zoom camera capabilities. So in a meeting like this, it would give us all our own window of space that we could identify who we are. It also isolates the audio part of it. Some webcams, WAP devices, controllers, and programming, some programming money to help us introduce joint programming between the Gardner Senior Center and the Templeton one. So zooming in or the Zoom classes or yoga classes, right, so that they can see them and participate there and not have to be in the room. The last part of this, and this is a cool part, we're buying 20 Chromebooks. Of the 20 Chromebooks, 10 will be located here at the Gardner Senior Center, 10 will be located at the Templeton Senior Center. They'll be fully equipped with cellular cards and Wi-Fi data access that we'll be paying for 2 years. And we're going to use the lending library for technology for our seniors. So seniors obviously have to be a member, have to be a resident. They'll take it out just like they would a library book. They'll loan it out, no cost. And return it after a given number of days. So some pretty cool stuff on that. We are in the throes of implementing. We've met with the purchasing department and the IT department to get the things going in terms of purchase, and then we can deploy in Templeton, which is really nice. We don't have to have 2 separate procurement processes. The implementation part has been a little difficult with Templeton as they have a new director and manager. Their whole structure has changed dramatically, and so trying to find the time to get this implemented in Templeton has been a little challenging, but not so bad that we're worried. So that's kind of cool stuff. That's all I have for the director's report, sir.
Okay. Any other discussions or questions?
Opens. Oh wait, any questions for the director first?
Yes, Mike, are we going to be doing surveys again with the Sherman Lens, or was that just for last year?
No, I like the surveys. I think it gives people something to do, and then afterwards it gives some folks something to do, which reminds me. So we've been asked, I'll talk about that. So yeah, the answer is I think we're going to do surveys again. We're doing a whole bunch of informal discussions and collecting data. So the fireside chat we had here last month, the coffee conversations we're having, we're trying to collect information from seniors so we can compile that as part of our age-friendly designation strategy. And those are ongoing. This is something we'll be doing continuously at least a couple times, if not quarterly, every year for the next 5 years. So, kind of strap yourself in for this. We'll be calling you to help us. Just be there, be present, answer questions, talk about your experiences, and folks have specific questions. But we're really looking to collect data from, especially the senior community that's not engaged at the senior center, right? So how can we be a better council on aging, providing the services and programs to the seniors in our community that don't use the building? There's got to be a better way to do it. Interns, I did want to mention that. So we have a social worker intern coming in and he's going to be with us for a little while. And on Friday mornings, we have this wonderful gentleman. He's a Gardner native, has his degree in physical therapy, going to med school in the fall, but wanted to do something between now and med school. So he comes in on Friday mornings. And every Friday morning, 7:30, he comes in and he changes into, honest to God, I call it like a 1970s version of a workout outfit. And he meets with the folks from Fun and Fitness and yoga. And he talks about stretching and the exercises, warm up, cool down, all of the things you need to do to prevent injuries when participating in any activity, whether it's silver sneakers or it's cross-country skiing. Really kind of cool. And I'm having a lot of fun with him. He's got a great personality. The seniors love him. He's young and he's fun, and there's nothing he won't do. So, he comes to yoga class and he does all the yoga stuff with them. It's just really nice to have folks that are, the important thing is that they're interested. They're interested in coming to be part of the program here. I see some smiles. Anybody here meet Marcus yet? Anybody? Nobody has met Marcus Campbell? Is he not a cool kid?
Energetic.
And he's brought to us some recommendations for like new tension straps, different kind of tension straps to do some different exercises that we wouldn't have known otherwise. So we're just very appreciative for his time. Marcus, that one's for you. Thank you for all you do here at the Gardner Senior Center.
Okay, now it's time for open discussion. Paul?
I received an email from Skillhurst, which is the State Ethics Commission stuff, saying that I won't be able to complete my conflict of interest law training 2024 until 2025. So I can't access it. But I have to go in and acknowledge the receipt of the conflict of interest law for Muni employees 2024 by July. I didn't know if anybody else got this.
Yes,
Yes.
yep, it has been sent out. If you've done your ethics training online, either you should have gotten that email, maybe it went into your spam, or you will get that email. So that's absolutely, I was able to get the IT department to tell me that's a legit thing, so I conferred with them. I haven't seen it. Tracy Hutchinson was the first one who brought it to my attention. So, and I think the reason we can't do it is it's in the throes of being changed. That's why I think you can't do your ethics training in 2024. So,
It's saying that I completed it in 2023, and I will not see the course on my login page until 2025.
yeah. But yeah, the other reason for that, Paul, is as a former Massachusetts Community College instructor, we used to only have to do ethics training every other year. Then they changed it to every year like 5 years ago. I'm wondering if they're going back to every other year. I haven't seen the email, I haven't been able to explore it, but I will get an answer for that if anybody really wants to know.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a quick question. I was on Facebook the other day, and there was a discussion about eligibility for a person to go to a senior center. And there was a debate on whether you should be 50 plus to come to a senior center or 55 plus. So I'm now confused.
I will make it 100% clear and in writing. On the front of our newsletter, we say 50 and over. We will start, but let's be clear about it, because I think as a board, you need to know how we operate. We have never checked anybody's license. We have never refused service to anybody who's here. So we've had some folks that are clearly under 50 years old come to the bread and pastry raffle. Some of our seniors have complained about that. My response is if they're coming to the bread and pastry raffle, they have to come to the bread and pastry raffle. Give them some bread and pastry. Who cares? It's not like you're not leaving here with something. We do a lot of placement for folks for housing, for example, and they have done a ton of referrals from mental health services and primary care referrals for folks under 50. That's just the nature of the beast. It has to be done, and we're happy to do it. It adds a little bit to the workload, but that doesn't mean that we should, kind of shut these people in. So 50 and over. Now, the other part of this answer is the Executive Office of Elderly Affairs helps fund this Gardner Senior Center. It funds the activities, programs, and infrastructure support of what we do here. EOEA funding is predicated very clearly on 60 and over. So we only get the stipend or the per capita allocation for folks in Gardner who've completed the census who are 60 years of age and older. So we may serve 35-year-olds, we may serve 40-year-olds, we may serve 59-year-olds. EOEA doesn't give us, and rightly so, they don't give us support for that. But on the other hand, we do get support from general city funds. So from my perspective, if I'm a paid city employee and there's somebody in the city who needs services, we're going to provide those services. Nobody gets turned away from services to because of age. Ever.
So,
including you, even though you are clearly under 50.
that is true.
That's what I was trying to do.
Thank you. So if somebody who is 60 is based on the population, is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is the funds we get from the EOA is based on the census of people
Right.
60 years of age and older.
Yeah, so it's the census.
In Gardner.
How many citizens live in Gardner that are over 60?
Yep.
That helps them figure out how much to
Yep.
roll out. But there's not really anything on the books that says that it's senior center. What I'm saying is basically there's no state law saying that you're considered a senior citizen.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope, there's no statutory
Right.
definition of who is a senior citizen or eligible to receive services from a senior center. Now, an interesting side note on that, Paul, is a lot of senior centers don't operate as senior centers, they operate as community centers.
Correct.
We have always been the Gardner Senior Center.
really need to change because our operating model is a community center.
What was interesting too, guys, as a side note to this whole discussion, was quite great comments, that a lot of people who are 50 in the 50 to 60 bracket don't consider themselves seniors.
There are 80-year-olds that don't consider themselves seniors.
Correct. And if you told them, it's a whole thing about marketing, about how you market yourself. If you told them that, oh, the 52, you can just come to the activities at the senior center, the discussion turned to what I would call it is ageism. That if you're 52, your social needs, your health needs, so forth, can be very, very different at 52, let's say 72 or 82.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I kind of rejected that they said, well, it was weird because some of the people would comment and say, well, I'm 52, I don't want to be with a bunch of old people and do bingo.
And that
it's this whole stereotypical thing about perceptions.
It's the thing that frustrates me the most is when you talk to folks in the community who are clearly within the age definition of being able to receive services at the senior center. There's a mentality that this is kind of a convalescing home. That, and it's not. It's, well, it can be. I mean, if folks want to come, and people do, hang out in the library and read and knit and crochet. We are a very active center, and I'm always amazed. Like, I don't participate in fun and fitness because, quite honestly, I don't want AED pads on my chest. I watch these ladies and what they do, and these guys in fun and fitness, they're very active. People who say this is an active community have no clue. I also want to make sure that we all, as part of Age Friendly, we're going to be looking at this. And one of the clear challenges we have is, seniors. We think about retirement age. 65. The vast majority of people I know who are 65 years old are still actively working and plan on working for the next 5 or 10 years. So that whole societal and cultural shift has happened, and seniors no longer stop working at 62 or 63 or 65. They work much later. So if I'm working 40 hours a week or 20 hours a week from 8 to 12 or 8 to 4 every day, when do I have time to come to the senior center between 8 and 4? So are there opportunities for us to create new programs, new resources, open our doors to access more services outside of the paradigm of 8 to 4? I think that's a great question for the next director. No, I mean, I'm excited about that prospect. Like, there's got to be a way, because I'm sure, Paul, as you said, there are people who need the social interaction. There are people who want the intellectual stimulation. There are people that want the physical activity. But because of the model of senior centers, we close.
But that's interesting.
I'm very interested.
No, you are interesting. But so the 50 to 60 age group, okay, are really excluded from funds from the Office of Elder Affairs because they don't count on that census, correct?
Well, they're not excluded. It's people who are 16 over are included. I mean, it could be as legitimately 65. I mean, there's the Commonwealth of Massachusetts sets the age at 60.
I guess what I wanted to say is that, the state bases it on our census, as you said, 60 plus. We've got a group of people who may get in their 50s, maybe will retire, whose health reasons, whatever reasons, are in the same situation as a lot of us now who are retired or facing health problems and could use the center, but according to the state, we're going to get only so much funds.
Yeah.
Because they're not part of that.
So the state gives us money to operate a center. And when we operate that center from 8 to 4, or whatever, it really doesn't matter what the population looks like that comes down there. And by the way, of the close to 6,000 seniors in the city of Gardner, we see about 25% of those that are age 60 and over. 25% of the population. From my estimation, that's not a great number. I mean, I would love that to be 50%. So how do we reach that other 75%? Paul talked about it. And we are doing a lot more. So from a marketing perspective, and we talked about our whole marketing plan at the board meeting last year, as part of the debate, is, you know, information boards and mailings. We do a lot more signage in the city that's ever been done. We now share anything that goes up from the senior center is shared on the Board of Health, the city of Gardner, Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, that kind of stuff. You know, we're doing a lot more, but is there opportunities to do more? By the way, every major event we have, we put the boards down at the Hall House and the Housing Court. Every significant individual comments, we put boards out. We put them out, let people know. But things are different today. It's not just one source of resources for a senior anymore. There are 15 places that people can go now and get the same level of engagement. And we talk about it for our kids as well. That dynamic has changed. Doesn't make it bad, I think it makes it better. That just means we have to be better. And find the niche, what's the group of people that need to be served, and how do we get to them? And that is what Age Friendly is going to do for us here. Did I answer that all right, Paul?
You did. Thank you.
Any other discussions? Okay. So can I have our next meeting will be on March the 4th, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And now can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay, no vote.
Done. It's in the back, it's the blue container.
I see what it was.